I'm 81 years old. I say that out loud now because it still feels strange in my mouth, like I borrowed someone else's age and forgot to give it back. Most mornings I wake up before the sun, not because I want to, but because sleep loosens its grip earlier every year. My wife has been gone 6 years. The house is quiet in a way that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels unfinished. I'm not telling this because I need to be heard. I'm telling it because time has made one thing very clear to me, and I don't have much time left to pretend otherwise. When people ask how much you really need to retire comfortably, they usually expect a number, a clean figure. Something tidy. I used to think that way too. I built my whole life around numbers, salaries, savings goals, percentages. Years left until I could finally stop. Now, at 81, I can tell you the number was never the point, and that realization came far too late to be useful to me. These days, my life is small. I make coffee the same way every morning. I sit at the same spot at the kitchen table because my back prefers that chair. I read the paper slowly, sometimes twice, because my mind wanders and I lose my place. Around noon, I take a short walk if my knees allow it. I count the cracks in the sidewalk without meaning to. In the afternoon, I nap. Not because I'm tired, but because the hours stretch long when there's no one to fill them with conversation. I think about money more now than I did when I was young, which is ironic. Back then, money felt like something I could always earn more of. Time felt endless. I thought retirement was a finish line. Once I crossed it, life would finally begin in a quieter, gentler way. I didn't understand that life doesn't wait for permission. In my 20s, I was proud to be busy. I worked hard and talked about it even harder. Long hours felt like proof of worth. I told myself I was building something solid, a future, a cushion, safety. That's what responsible people did, or so I believed. I wasn't reckless. I paid my bills. I saved what I could. I avoided debt. On paper, I did most things right. I took jobs that promised stability instead of joy. I stayed late when others went home. I told myself I would rest later when it mattered less. My wife and I used to eat dinner late because of me. The food would be cold sometimes. She never complained much. She would ask about my day, and I'd answer in fragments, already thinking about tomorrow. I told myself there would be time later for longer talks. Later always felt close. It never felt urgent. In my 30s and 40s, life sped up. Children, responsibilities, routines that hardened into habits. I measured success by whether I could provide. I thought that was love. I thought presents could be postponed as long as the bills were paid and the future looked secure. I missed more school events than I care to count. I showed up late to birthdays. I promised vacations we kept rescheduling. Each time, it felt temporary, necessary, sensible. I didn't see the cost because it didn't arrive with a sound. It arrived quietly. A little distance here, a shorter conversation there. Children who stopped asking as often if I'd be home for dinner. At work, I was respected. People came to me for answers. That felt good. It filled something I didn't realize was empty. I told myself I was doing this for my family, even when they stopped benefiting from it in any real way. When people talked about retirement back then, it sounded like freedom. Golf, travel, long mornings with no alarms. I pictured myself finally exhaling. I thought the real reward came at the end. What I didn't understand is that comfort isn't something you stockpile. It's something you practice. The damage didn't come all at once. There was no single bad decision, no dramatic collapse, just small choices that leaned in the same direction, over and over, work over presence, planning over living, security over connection. I remember a conversation with my wife in our late 40s. We were sitting in the car, waiting for rain to pass. She asked me what I wanted to do when I retired. I talked about money, about how much we'd need, about not being a burden. She listened, then said quietly that she hoped we'd still recognize each other by then. I laughed it off, told her she was being dramatic. I wish I'd stayed silent instead. The turning point didn't announce itself. It rarely does. For me, it came wrapped in illness, a slow one, the kind that steals energy before it steals breath. I watched my wife grow smaller while I was still thinking in years. We talked about plans we would never use, trips we would never take. When she died, I realized something cruel. We had enough money. We just didn't have enough time left to use it the way we imagined. Retirement, when it finally came, felt hollow. The alarm stopped ringing, but so did the phone. The structure that once suffocated me had also held me up. Without it, the days felt loose and shapeless. I had saved, not extravagantly, but responsibly. Enough to live without fear, enough to cover my needs, enough according to every article I'd ever read. But comfort is more than surviving without panic. Comfort is waking up with someone to speak to, is having memories that feel warm instead of sharp, is not having to wonder if you traded too much of your life away for a sense of safety that never fully arrived. There are things that can't be fixed at 81. Time is one of them. Relationships are another. Once they've thinned too much, you can't rush intimacy in old age. You can't recreate shared history when the people who lived it with you are gone. I see my children now, grown and busy in their own lives. We are polite, kind, loving in our way. But there's a distance that comes from years of absence. It's nobody's fault, and that somehow makes it heavier. So how much do you really need to retire comfortably? Enough money to meet your basic needs, yes. Enough to sleep without fear of the lights going out or the heat failing. But beyond that, comfort depends on things no account can hold. You need familiarity. You need relationships that haven't been postponed. You need memories that don't ache when you touch them. I'm not telling you to quit your job. I'm not telling you to ignore responsibility. I'm telling you that postponing life has a cost, and it compounds quietly. I thought I was being patient. I was really being absent. If you're listening to this and you're younger, you probably still think you have time. I did too, and maybe you do. But time is not something you store. It's something that leaks slowly, whether you notice or not. If this meant something to you, sit with it. You don't have to change your life overnight. Just don't keep telling yourself you'll live later. At 81, I've learned that comfort isn't a number. It's a feeling you build while you still can. I'm still here. I still have days left. I try to use them gently. But there are questions I no longer ask because I already know the answers. And that's the quiet truth I wanted to leave with you.